Good afternoon. Welcome back to the afternoon session of the Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Gary Kolb. Just a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed and it will be archived for use on our FAA YouTube channel as well. Just a reminder, again, for the speakers and presentations, there will be an opportunity for discussion and Q&A after each of the presentation. Please raise your hand if you're participating virtually online. And also for the presenters, we'll be pushing the slides from our end. So just say next slide if you want us to move to the next one. Our next presentation is from Diana Robinson, and she's going to talk about the college training initiative. And so I'll turn it over to Diana. Diana, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Let me make sure I got my notes right here in front of me. Don't want to miss anything. It's so good to be with all of you today. I was asked to share and kind of update on what's happening with the UAS Collegiate Training Initiative. And so first, again, I am Diana Robinson. I'm a project manager in the UAS Integration Office at the FAA, and primary focus is outreach and engagement. And my biggest program truly is this CTI program. It just continues to grow. We're really excited how successful it's been. So next slide, or do I have controls, Gary? Awesome. So just to kind of, most of you maybe have heard about the CTI, but I just wanted to share a little bit about it to update you. With the rapid growth of UAS and the drone industry, there was that realization that we really needed to ensure not only the safe integration of drones into airspace, but also to build a pipeline of qualified professionals to meet that demand. And it was also a congressional requirement coming from the 2018 Reauthorization Act. And I couldn't have been more pleased when I was approached and asked, would you be willing to work with others to help build this program? And they did point out there's no funding, but I knew it was going to be successful from the beginning because there was such a thirst for drone knowledge, and a lot of people that are hobbyists realizing that they can turn this into a career. So April 30th of 2020, we launched. The picture here, we have Elizabeth City State University and Fullerton College. I always like to point that out because these are truly pictures that they either sent in or we were able to take if we were at an event. Next slide. So to begin about, why is this important? The market growth job opportunities, we are seeing that we are going to need a lot of workers in UAS, and especially with the, with AAM coming into this picture as well. And so market growth job opportunities, we are going to need a lot. The projections are big. So we want to make sure that's happening. Next slide. Findings from this committee. We know that a number of drone technicians, drone pilots entering the workforce, even this year alone, 56,000 new workers to keep pace with the industry. And then by 2030, growing to 85,000, like 2.3%. And that is, entire graduating high school in the US. So we want to be ahead of the game, so to speak. Next slide. What you may not know about me, before coming to the FAA, I actually worked in local government. Prior to that, I had a full career with a different federal agency. But with my time in local government, I was, pleased that I got to serve as their energy sustainability manager, and we stood up a drone program because we saw such a need within our county government. We were using drones to do roof inspections, windows. In Florida, it's hot. We want to make sure if air was leaking out, we would go and caulk. And of course, they had the horrible hurricane that recently hit down in that southwestern Florida. So for search and rescue, public safety, those are, of course, huge as well. So it's growing. And the CTI program, we have been very surprised. Well, I wouldn't say very surprised, but we are pleasantly surprised that drone programs fall in a variety of different departments, from GIS to videography, photography. A lot of our California schools are actually teaching it within that degree program. So that is where we're in. Agriculture, of course, is big. So that is why we are doing this. Next slide. So part of the requirements coming from the Reauthorization Act, not only to have a new CTI, we've had air traffic for many, many years. Tech Ops CTI program also was very successful. And so this third one needed to be stood up because of the growth. But part of that language said to also create a consortium of the 2-year and technical colleges. So when we meet, we have full UAS CTI meetings, but we also have meetings with the consortium, which is 2-year technical colleges, along with industry, local government, and others are welcome to participate. Next slide. And within that congressional language, there were certain training objectives and goals that curriculum must include. And I just know from my own experience that these are pretty much going to be covered. You're going to be training on different types of drones, whether it's a fixed wing or a multi-rotor. We want to make sure that you have that hands-on practice using UAS simulator training. And then, of course, federal policies, right? We are the FAA. We want to make sure that that information is pushed out when it becomes time to share with all of our schools. So this is a good opportunity to be able to do that. And then the schools alone just sharing not only curriculum, but best practices. So next slide. Schools that aren't eligible, we still bring them in and work with them to stand up and start that program. We do have open source curriculum that's shared through our repository for the CTI program, and we always can, direct to where they can find information because we want them to be part of our program. We want to have them as part of the CTI, but to be successful. Next slide. Application process is fairly simple. They can just send in a request to participate. We have an email box that has been created and basically saying, hey, we'd like to be part of your program. This is school information. This person will be the point of contact. One thing that is important is accreditation. And this is something that we learned recently. When we talk accreditation, it's that Secretary of Education accreditation. So SACS, for example, not an aviation accreditation, just the Secretary of Education. So we want to make sure that that's, clearly related to everyone. We encourage all schools to work towards a certificate program if there's not one. But if you have a number of true UAS courses that are available for, it may be more than one program, then we will welcome you into this program. It's all about workforce development. I know that's what Congress' intent was, and so we don't want to exclude anybody. Next slide. So benefits, I've already mentioned a few. We do have lots of resources, but I think the biggest bonus of being part of this program is you actually get to know each other. So you have a face, a person you can go to. We're getting messages all the time, questions asked. We reference and send people to our support center, to the help desk, so that they can answer questions. And that is part of what we do as well. When we have meetings, we make sure that we're covering topics that again, if it's something happening within the FAA or challenges, we ask them, what would you like to learn about? And we have guest speakers that come in, and so far they seem to really enjoy the meetings. Next slide. So we have 95 schools now in the program. The 95th one, more recent, we were so happy that NC-A&T State University became one of our schools. They're an HBCU. And so that we're now at 95 and we're continuing to grow. We get requests to participate all the time. We have lots of meetings. We have one coming up with a school that we met, one of our droning on regional events who want to have their administration come in and hear about the program. So 4-year, 2-year technical colleges, the Secretary of Education, again, courses that are tied to that degree program, and then we have the consortium. We also have completed some really incredible action items. Our first meeting, September of 2020, there was a concern for lack of job data. So why is that important? Because to stand up a program or to maintain a program, you have to be able to say there's going to be jobs. We've already seen at the beginning of the presentation that there's going to be a need, but the BLS was not reflecting that. So we put a team together. We had some working groups that were academia, industry, local government that worked together with Department of Labor, Department of Transportation, Department of Education. And on their recommendation, we modified 5 job classifications, and we instantly started to see that new job count go, the numbers being generated. And I'm going to talk about DEI and A in a minute. We also created a list of FAA safety team, our drone pros. During a meeting, we asked, would you be willing to be like a guest speaker or maybe even adjunct professor, because they are having a hard time sometimes having those professors for their programs. And we had like 95 in attendance, and 50, I think there was like 55 to 60 were like, yes, I want to do that. And of that number, quite a few had prior education experience. So it was just a win-win. This last one, we're having regional UAS events, and they're being hosted at our CTI schools. Next slide. I took this picture. I've shared it with a few of you in the past. I just love this picture. I had moved to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and MTSU is one of our schools in the CTI program, and their UAS lab class, they were going to get out and fly their fixed wing drones, and all the students had the same materials, but this picture really captured, to me, it just says so much. We've got Sarah, the young lady in the wheelchair. She was born with birth defect. She has been a drone pilot since high school, and now she is graduating with a degree in UAS. She's an amazing pilot. And then we have veterans. The young man here in the camo, he is a veteran, and there was another veteran there that also had an injury when he was serving in Iraq. And so they are loving this, and we are, expanding out with other programs. Veterans are super important part of what we're doing. But again, that accessibility to meet whatever they're, whatever they're dealing with, how can we help them become that drone pilot? We have MSI students that actually work with us. That's the Minority Serving Institutes. And we try to keep an MSI student or 2 or 3, however many they'll let us get. And then those MSI students come together in a cohort. And we've had a couple of projects that they've worked on within UAS, from DEI to even coming up with a UAS 101 course, which will be for internal FAA employees, and then eventually maybe be pushed out to the fastsafety.gov site. Next slide. So here is our list of those MSI schools. We're delighted. We want that number to grow. We have a few other HBCUs that have applied, as well as HSIs. And so if you have that reach, I think we're successful because of you all and the networking. And that's how we learn and where and who we need to contact. And we are getting ready to launch a big campaign. We'd love to reach 200 schools by the end of 2023. And I think it can be done. I really do. I know sometimes it's difficult for schools to, not difficult, it's time consuming for them to set up a full degree program, but implementing a few courses, a certificate program may be a little more doable. Next slide. So we've had grant recipients. Actually, this one was coming from funding of FY 2020. And we were so happy that the first 4 that were announced this past spring were our UAS CTI schools. And they're going to be working with high schools, doing, train the trainer, teach the teacher, whatever you want to call it there. But we're really excited that because the workforce grants were all aviation, and for it to have fallen in quite a few for UAS, we were super happy to hear that. And if you'll advance to the next just quickly to go through to show the group, and you may even be associated with some of these schools or school systems or districts. Next slide. And then the next one. And these you can actually go out and find if you want to go back and look at it. And the 2021 funding, I think, will be announced probably early next year. And so hopefully we'll have more UAS. I know quite a few applied. Next slide. So we've shown this before, you may have seen it, but truly our success is just the collaboration between the FAA, universities, colleges, technical schools. We want to work with our local governments, our state, tribal, all important. And by networking and getting together, that is truly a measure of success. Next slide. So we've had an initiative this year going on, and we've been partnering with our regional administrators' offices to have, I'd mentioned that we have been going to CTI schools. They're delighted for us to be here. We've had an education focused day, a public safety local government focused day, and we've just heard nothing but positive comments coming from attendees because they, came here hoping to, learn about what we're doing, especially on that education day, because it does tie in here with the CTI, and they're getting a lot of information and connections. Next slide. So you may be asking, well, where are those regional events? As you see, October 20th, 21st is in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I'm at. We have I think there were 2 or 3 different groups of high school kids bussed in. Their instructors, even vice principal, were excited to bring them. We've had 2 tracks, one student track, the other is educator track, which I led earlier today. And again, they're gaining the important information. They're learning how they can stand up a program. There are quite a few schools here that don't have a program. And so working together, we're going to reach that number. And then I've got a Q&A if you have any questions. I don't know if you want to do now or wait till later, Gary, but happy to take any questions. And then if you'll advance to, these are links to our repository is with the National Center for Autonomous Technologies. They're a nice National Science Foundation grant funded center. And this kind of satisfied their that grant to collaborate with us on different initiatives. And they said, we'll be happy to host that repository, which has been really nice for the schools to pass information and curriculum back and forth. And then next slide. Yep, that's me. That was, I don't get to get out and fly as much as I'd like to because I'm so busy with the program side of it, but I do have my Part 107. The young man in the darker colored t-shirt looking over is autistic, and he just loved being able to participate and get out there and fly.
All right. Excuse me, Diana. This is Jay. Thank you very much.
Jay.
Hi. Yes, Diana's in the peach or orange shirt, so please don't confuse her for one of the students. Although she is very spry, and you can tell just the expression on her face there and the enthusiasm in her presentation. Diana really does love doing this work. So open for questions. Yes, Vic.
Hi, Diana. First, thanks for what y'all are doing at CTI. I know you're doing a lot of fun stuff there. Question for you. Do you have a conduit where high schools can reach out to you that are developing their own UAS programs, and they can get some input from you for what the kids need to know in order to be more successful in a CTI program?
Vic, thank you for asking that question. We have, our STEM aviation and space education program. As we go out into our regions, they're here with us. So we have Southern Region STEM AVSED rep here with us. We do try to include them and whenever we're asked, but that's a real passion for us, and we are actually building a program. We hope, may not be a program, but just a way of having that information, whether it's curriculum, where do they go to, here are these faculty members that are teaching, what high schools have programs, because not everybody's cut out for that next step of academia, and they can get their Part 107 right at 16 years old and can go to work right out of high school. So yes, we are, we always try to find answers, resources, and then we're also working on having where we have easy to get to. If the high school's near another high school, make sure they connect. And yes, so we're working on that. And I see Jazz.
Jay. Hi.
Jace.
Hi, Diana. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Hey, the program is so fortunate to have you. Your enthusiasm for the space just is shining through this. So really grateful to have you part of this. I can see this is definitely a labor of love for you. So thank you for that. My question for you is, as a hobbyist who turned into a career as well, I feel the enthusiasm and the need for tools. What can we do as private industry to help you out? What do you need from us?
We have a panel session happening right now, and I want to give a little credit where credit's due. I'm not alone in this. We started out in the Uas integration office. Is actually 410 is where I'm at. And I came in, was asked about starting this program, but Alina George was very big in helping Danielle Corbett, just putting all the paperwork together. I see Kevin's on the call. It took everybody working together. And yes, there has been a lot of enthusiasm there. But so we have a panel coming up, and it's with it's what we call a UAS education service provider. So they're more, it's more the for-profit, they do training, but they're important to this. What you're doing is important. Being able to know where those resources are and directing them, if as a recreational flyer, turning it into a career, how can that happen? How can we make that happen? Being able to share, these are the schools with the UAS program. You might want to consider going there or going through their program. But again, those others like your pilot institutes, Unmanned Safety Institute, those are also a piece of us all working together for this, for educating, and then getting it down into the elementary schools even, because I'm all with that picture. I remember we were corrected. There was the son that his dad's a drone pilot, and then the person that I was working with at the time, she said something incorrectly on, I don't know, 400 feet. She might have said something wrong, but he was like, no, that's not correct. So the younger we teach them, that's how this is all going to happen, just to have that knowledge. And so directing them to resources, these different programs, I think is definitely one way. And then just get out there, be at events, offer to set up a table to talk to the students whenever you can. That is also very important. Now that we're out and about, we truly have, I think we've gained so much by that. Instead of, virtual is great, but I think being out we got, like I said, a lot of high school kids here today, as well as college kids, because we're on campus and they've been in and out. So,
So
yeah.
Diana, this
Yeah.
is Abby. Can I just build on what you said, and for Jazz's sake? I would offer that something that industry can do that could be really profound is to develop their own curriculum and offer training to students directly. And if you're interested in developing curriculum, the website that Diana mentioned that we host in conjunction with the National Science Foundation, we can host that curriculum and make it a national resource. So, I mean, because let's face it, it takes all of us to do this important change. And so I'm just putting that out there as an offer and resource. Thanks.
Thank you,
That is
Abby. And let me,
Great.
yeah, I would also say industry, please feel free to contact Diana. Diana may have opportunities either nationally or locally that she can connect you. She can also connect you with local drone pros in your area. And I think working through all of that network of resources we have would be important. And with that, yes, Kathy, I see you want to make a comment or question.
I want to follow up on that. We found that the best way to engage with everybody is to bring as many people together as possible. So we will do events where we pull people in from our state government who are doing infrastructure monitoring, the FAA, academic folks, the outreach folks, and I'm drawing a complete blank, AVSED. They are wonderful to bring along. It's an education on both sides that way. We went to one school and asked the question about how many kids had flown drones, and half the hands went up. And then the next question was how many were registered. There were 2. And then was the question of, okay, you're on a military base. How many of you have flown on base? All the hands went up. And the FAST team had a very bad moment. But we also we've got some local cinematographers who run drones for their work. We've brought them in, and it really having the diversity of experience and the diversity of jobs really engages the students. And then also preach the trust exam again and again and again. That helps get the kids engaged. It gets them learning the regulations. It's kind of the gateway into aviation. And it's easy to do, and we will do it with a full class and work them through it. It is a really nice way to get them engaged in thinking. So definitely reach out to any of the academic programs, even if we don't happen to be in CTI. We were some of the ones who initially didn't qualify, and Diana keeps beating on me, we need to do this. It will come, Diana. But it is a case of get engaged with the people who are doing the outreach. Your unique viewpoint is incredibly important.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Dr. Sue?
Yeah, just to follow that, the TG-12 last year, and we have 25 members, and we're really working hard. Brian Wynn and I and Brett, and we're honored to take over this task force to implement the K-12 curriculum into the school, and also the future workforce development and everything. So yeah, I'm very happy, very glad, very proud to see FAA is implementing many of our recommendations. But I also see a lot of synergies, because the 25 members that we have, we done all this already many years, at least five or more years. So maybe FAA should consider to reach out to us, and we can share some of our experience, and so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've been doing that, already. So I think that would be really a
Excellent.
synergy,
Dr. Sue,
yeah.
could Diana reach out to you as a point of contact to reach the other folks?
Not yet, but
Not yet.
I hope she will.
No. Could she?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, that's
we're
excellent.
wide open. Yeah, we want to share all our experience, because
Yeah.
all these CTI things, we've been doing that for many years. So we can share lots of know-how. Don't really have to reinvent the wheel. So
Excellent. I know Diana would love to get in touch with you. Kenji?
Yeah, Diana, excellent presentation. The question I had was, do any of these CTI programs have active internship programs? And do you have any guidelines around internship programs for industry, for example, how to set it up and best practices? Because I think one of the most important things is we can teach theory, we can teach how to fly, but one of the most important pieces is actually being out in the field and flying for a job. For example, in the film and television industry, on sets, there's certain ways you have to behave. There's certain people you talk to. There's certain ways you have to actually fly and set up. So I'm wondering if there's sort of that relationship built out to the private industry where these kids can really get hands-on experience alongside somebody who's actually doing it as their job.
For one, Kenji, I love internships and intern programs. And I do think that, I'm not sure that NCAT has one set up yet, but that was a discussion, what schools, what industries or governments are offering internships to students that are truly, in that UAS CTI program. So as far as a formal setup, we don't have, but I do know that a lot of our schools do have connections for pushing out interns. It always makes me happy when I hear the success story of a graduate who's gone on to, open his own business that's been incredibly successful. But intern programs are always a good way for them to find where they need to be. And then it's good for, us, the government, if there's a good fit there. So I don't know if that really answered it, but Kenji, we definitely do share. I know there have been a couple utility companies that had internships, and I would push that out to the CTI schools so they were aware that they were there.
Yeah, Kenji, I think it'd be beneficial for you and Diana to connect offline and follow up on this.
Mhm.
And Mark, you're our last question on this topic, so we can try and get on to schedule.
Okay, very good. Diana, hi, how are you again?
Hi, good to see you, Mark.
Good to see you again. Yeah, about 2 months ago, we managed to get you and the national leader of the USDA 4-H program together.
Yes.
And I just love your enthusiasm, and I hope there was something good that came out of that meeting. Has there been any follow-up on that?
Thank you for asking that. That makes me so happy that you asked that, because yes. So
Great.
meeting with
Okay.
USDA, then trickled down to connections with 4-H. I think everybody should be familiar with 4-H, and they had their national conference and asked me just to kind of join a meeting. It wasn't a presentation or thing, but a meeting of their STEM committee. They are so excited with and hopeful that in the future they can collaborate with us or partner with us. I mean, that's big. 4-H is everywhere,
6
major
million
universities and the extension offices. So that has been like in the last couple of weeks. So your question was timely.
That's
and yes,
awesome.
we are
I'm really
moving
glad to hear
forward with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you. You did the connection. So yay.
All right, Diana, thank you. And thank you for your continued dedication to this very important program. Houston?
Yeah, no, I was just going to echo that as well. And another, great conversation, right? And I couldn't agree more. Obviously, the work that you and Brian and Task Group 12 did, just align so naturally with this to see this work, continue to progress. Jay, and the work that you and the team are doing is phenomenal. So certainly appreciate that, and I look forward to ongoing collaboration in this very important space. So with that, our very own Abby Smith is going to bring forward an update on the drone safety team and provide another area that's very close to all of our hearts, particularly as we think about integration. I know our traditional users in particular are always interested on what's going on in this space. And I'm just mindful that this is an area, I think, for us that we have to be mindful of, right? Because I think the public expects us to be absolutely successful in this space. And so one of the things that goes on in the world of SMS is mitigation. And how do you learn? It's through data. And it's through gathering that information, assessing information, and looking for opportunities to get better. So Abby, I know that's exactly what you and the team are doing. So thanks so much for bringing us an update.
Well, thank you. And hi, everybody. It's really hard to be in this space. You've now heard from Diana, who's really energized, and we've had enough time in our stomachs now for in that digestion phase, and it's sleepy time after lunch. But so I have with me the industry co-chair, Pete Dumont. So we are going to be really leaning into this whole hybrid concept of meaning to give you this presentation about drone safety. So that's the title page. Next slide, please. Pete?
Yes. Well, first of all, this has been a great meeting so far. The briefings have been impressive and fascinating. The comments have been very insightful. It's sitting here online and not actually being part of the group. So many times you just want to jump in with comments and observations. So I've really enjoyed this up till now. So thank you, Houston, Jay, and the ACT for inviting us to present today. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm joining from Tennessee. Diana, I'm about 30 minutes from Murfreesboro. My name is Pete Dumont, and I'm the Drone Safety Team Industry Co-Chair, as Abby just said. So the mission of the DST supports the safe integration of UAS with data-driven safety enhancements and collaboration among members of the UAS industry. The Drone Safety Team, formerly known as the Unmanned Aircraft Safety Team, was chartered in 2016 by FAA Administrator Michael Huerta. The DST is an industry-government partnership, is committed to ensuring the safe operation of drones in the national airspace system. The DST supports drone integration with data-driven safety enhancements and collaboration among members of the drone industry. The DST has adopted the same collaborative model as the General Aviation Joint Steering Committee and the Commercial Aviation Safety Team. So that's a brief overview of what the mission is. Next slide, and Abby.
So, ta-da! Here are some of our members to date. And as you can see, there's a number of drone safety team members, all of who bring significant value to the group. Now, this is my shameless, or I should say, our shameless plug. If you do not see yourself on this list, you need to get on this list. And you need to invite everybody in the ecosystem that you know that's not on this list to get on this list. Because data is the ruling monarch here and safety is all of our North Star. I know at lunch, I got to call out David here. David said, look, the bottom line is it's got to be safe if we're going to make this work. That's right. And it takes the village. And the cool part about the drone safety team is this is confidential information. It's a free organization to join, but the agreement that you're joining is that you're going to share your data. And I want to thank Lauren Cass, and he gave us some marketing earlier on. And when we talk about SMS guidelines, there's SMS guidelines, and we're going to talk about that later on there. But this is all data that the drone safety team has developed collaboratively and together we lift each other in this ecosystem to make it better. Anyone can apply for membership as long as they have industrial knowledge, are committed to furthering the drone safety team's mission, and are willing to fulfill the membership requirements, including attending meetings, and there's 4 a year. And you can do it virtually or in person, participating in work groups and contributing to work products that advance this agenda. This upcoming year, we're particularly interested in applicants from community-based organizations, hint, hint, Cami, first-person vehicle racing leagues, aviation safety professionals, lobbyists, drone service operators, manufacturers of drone hardware and software developers, and engineers, and yes, those that fix drones, Brad. To apply, visit dronesafetyteam.org/apply and complete the form online. That's it. It is easy. If you're an international entity and would like to be involved, you can be an observer and participate in that way and share this knowledge globally. And it's a way for us in the United States to impact our global leadership even more. Next slide, and back to you, Pete.
Thanks, Abby. So this slide shows our leadership team for the DST. Obviously, I'm not going to read it to you. I'm the industry co-chair. Abigail is the FAA co-chair. She joined just recently, and I couldn't be more delighted with her addition. I've worked with Abby and been friends with her for many years, and her passion, professionalism, and energy is unmatched. We're supported by the members of the steering committee, as you can see to the right side of the slide. I'd like to point out that although we are the leadership team, this work would not get done without the contributions of the volunteer leadership and membership in the 3 working groups and those members that Abby just pointed out. I'd also like to take a second to personally thank April for her work as support staff. Without all her hard work, the steering committee would not function as well as it does, or maybe not at all. Next slide, please. So collaboration. I think everyone here understands the value of collaboration. Obviously, our TCA does because it was at the bottom of all their slides. The drone community has so many different facets that it's important to include as many as possible. The purpose of my last briefing to the ACT and this follow-on is to foster collaboration with not only the ACT body, but the individual components. The more entities we collaborate with, the more we learn and the less likely we are to make the same mistakes again and again. Sharing both lessons learned and best practices enhances safety. This list here is our vision of collaborators, but it's by no means comprehensive. We welcome comments and additions. We want to collaborate with everyone. The more brains we have, the better. Abby and I have discussed how important collaboration is and the ways we can leverage our individual relationships to get more organizations and/or departments involved to add more value as we move forward and as we develop outcomes that can be measured and beneficial to the community. Next slide, and back to you, Abby.
So this is just a quick preview of things that we're going to go over with you now. And that gives you an idea because Pete was talking about the fact that we've got a leadership, but then we have a group of willing volunteers that lean in and do good work. We've got 4 working groups that cover data analysis, safety assurance, safety mitigation, and strategic communication. We're going to next slide, talk in depth about each one. Pete?
Thanks, Abby. So the data analysis team is is evaluating available data for compliance. One of the challenges we're having is actually getting the data. So the way this was structured was for this group to gather data from these areas, then to analyze that data to determine compliance and to share that data with FAA and communications to grow awareness and develop educational campaigns to address safety concerns. The group's in its final stages of drafting the ASRS UAS ad hoc report. They're planning to complete this report in the coming weeks and share a draft internally with the DST. And following that review, we plan to publish the report more broadly, including to the FAA for ASRS oversight and NASA, among others, including this group. The primary goals beside the initiatives above center around more data contributions. To date, that's been a weak spot across the DST as a whole. This is where collaboration and data sharing come into play. Abby and I have discussed this as well, and this with the steering committee, and think we have the first steps to developing a strategy to gain more insight into available data. We are starving for data. And as we move to collaborate with more organizations, we're hoping that that will facilitate gathering of more data. Next slide, please. So in the slide that Abby introduced, you saw two of the working groups, safety assurance and safety mitigation. That's the way we initially structured this. As we started doing the work, we realized that instead of having the two work groups, we should combine that into one work group, which we're in the process of doing. As I brief the safety assurance slide and then move on to the safety mitigation slide, you'll see that we are completing the work for both of those groups. So the DST Safety Assurance Work Group. UAS traffic analysis. The DST Safety Assurance Working Group depends on data, which, as I said, has been a challenge within the UAS space. There just isn't much data available through traditional channels. One of our members of the work group, under a SURE contract funded by the FAA, is doing cutting-edge work by accessing, integrating various databases to perform unique trend-setting small UAS traffic analysis. This work is providing insights using quantitative data analysis, providing the FAA the knowledge required to maintain the safety of the NAS and accommodate new types of UAS operations. In terms of safety assurance, this research is important to monitor the effectiveness of existing UAS regulations and forecast future UAS integration and regulatory needs. Correlating UAS detection data with ADS-B, weather, GIS, LANCE, and other data sources, this effort provides the first systematic data and analysis to assess safety risk concerns that are associated with the integration of small UAS into the national airspace system. One of the other, I'm sorry. Yes, one of our, I've got something talking over here. One of our next efforts that you heard a little bit about earlier was the working group is developing templates to assist with the establishment of a scalable SMS for small, medium, and large UAS operators. And in the spirit of collaboration, we're leveraging the membership of some of the groups. And one of them is the Academy of Model Aeronautics, which has developed and successfully implemented safety standards based on AMA's 85 years of experience, with much of it gained in the airspace used for UAS. This allows us to understand lessons learned over all those years and already established best practices. And as someone said earlier in one of the briefings, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And we also don't want to make the same mistakes over and over again. Some of our safety enhancement projects are to add UAS to the Lessons Learned FAA Gov website, to disseminate NASA ASRS alert message memos, to reference the CAA generated UAS related safety bulletins and occurrence reports, reference OEM generated safety bulletins. We want to develop unique investigative forms that are related to accidents, investigations, law enforcement referrals. Partner with the FAA and the NTSB to determine if they're reviewing or revising current forms to capture safety critical data, attributes that are unique within the US space, like DoD, and to develop standard occurrence reporting criteria to assess effectiveness of safety risk controls associated with waivers, exemptions, and authorizations. Support the CAST and ICAO Common Taxonomy team in establishing a small UAS-focused international taxonomy. Partner with the General Aviation Joint Safety Committee, as I said before, and the U.S. Helicopter Safety Team to identify and address emerging high-risk hazards. Partner with Assure to identify risk mitigation strategies. To also partner with the FAA to recommend safety performance and safety assurance metrics within the UAS space to comply with their strategic goals. And using the small UAS traffic analysis to identify the need to revise or create new safety risk controls within the small UAS airspace. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, and you can see from the slide, most of what I discuss has already been incorporated into the Safety Assurance Working Group, which is why we're combining them. Next slide, please. So strategic communications. Nothing works if we're not communicating. We have outreach through social media, Twitter outreach, promoting DST and mission content, our website, which we're updating and maintaining so we can maintain our online presence, and then outreach, providing members with branding and editing guidance, promoting new DST original content. So we do that through our collaboration with associations, with other organizations, so that they can promote what we're doing either on their website, at their conferences, any type of get-together they're having. Promote the work and progress of the working groups, obviously. Promote and support the FAA's Drone Safety Day, which we've been very involved in since it, even before it transitioned from the Drone Safety Week. Education, promoting awareness and programs like Trust, ASRS, Assure, and increasing awareness around issues such as drone registration, which we just heard a moment ago, is often lacking. Collaboration with other organizations and entities to amplify the safety message. And one of our focus areas moving forward will be communicating our SMS efforts. And lastly, communicating our safety enhancements that I just went over previously. Next slide, Abby.
Well, we'll stay put there for just a second. So
Sure, sorry.
as y'all, as all y'all, as they say in the South, know, the drone community is different than traditional aviation community. Generally speaking, traditional aviation proactively looks to the FAA for the latest information, regulatory guidance, certification, information requirements, and news. However, in the drone community, not everybody really fully understands the FAA's role, or even, I was talking actually with someone in law enforcement on vacation. They said, "You mean, wait, drones are aircraft?" And I almost fell over. So they're not necessarily aware of the FAA's role in regulation of drones and may not actively engage with us. So note that I'm only talking about some members, new flyers perhaps, or people that really haven't thought through the industry. As a result of this, we all deliberate about outreach and engagement. And frankly, within the UAS integration office itself, we're obsessed with it. In the DST, we partner with stakeholders to increase our messaging impact. We communicate in plain language, host events and webinars. And Pete mentioned we tweet every week. We explore new ways to reach the non-flying public, such as attending non-aviation centric events. Another way we seek to communicate with members of the drone community is through the FAA Drone Zone. Some of you may be familiar with the Drone Zone, the FAA's official website for managing drones, whether someone's flying for recreation, education, government, or business. The Drone Zone is where people can register their drones, and Part 107 pilots can apply for waivers, and airspace authorizations, and even submit accident reports. Speaking of accident reports, we've only received to date 180 total accident reports from Part 107 pilots in Drone Zone. This could mean one of two things. Either there aren't very many accidents taking place, or people aren't reporting. The second explanation is probably more likely, so we hope that each of you will spread the word and encourage drone pilots to report. Remember, this is a non-punitive construct. The official language in Part 107 states that the remote pilot in command is required to report an accident to the FAA no later than 10 calendar days after an accident that meets the following criteria. A, serious injury to any person or loss of consciousness, or B, damage to any property other than the small unmanned aircraft unless one of the following conditions is satisfied. The cost of repair, including materials and labor, does not exceed $500, or the fair market value of the property does not exceed $500 in the event of total loss. So the information that we collect will be included in the system of records notice DOT FAA 847. It's a fun title, isn't it? So it's aviation records on individuals and will be subject to the published routine issues. Some of these include disclosing data to the National Transportation Safety Board in connection with its investigation responsibilities and providing information to federal, state, local, tribal enforcement when they're engaged in official investigation. Having more information about these accidents will enable us to ultimately reduce the number of accidents and have a safer NAS. For those interested in an anonymous reporting system, stay tuned. We'll discuss that in a second. Now we're ready for the next slide. Let's talk trust. If anyone needs a refresher on trust, I'm happy to share a bit of background because I love acronyms. TRUST stands for the Recreational UAS Safety Test. And one of the cool things about the drone safety team is we actually were the people that came up with the construct of this trust test. Section 349 of the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018 required new conditions to operate recreational small drones. One of these conditions was for recreational flyers to pass an aeronautical knowledge test. So in 2021, the FAA put a provision in place so that recreational flyers can enjoy their hobby while complying with the statute. This free test is called the Recreational UAS Safety Test, or TRUST. It's designed to provide flyers of all ages with a minimum amount of information needed to begin flying recreationally. While we encourage people to expand their knowledge much beyond what's required by TRUST, this provides a great foundation. We've designated qualified third parties to administer the test and make it accessible to all recreation drone flyers. There are currently 17 test administrators. We've also opened a new application window for others who are interested in becoming a test administrator. The application closes on November 11. So this is me again, shamelessly marketing because we can't have enough help. We encourage you to visit our website to determine whether you meet the criteria. As of last week, there were over 367,000 completed trust tokens, signifying the number of successfully completed tests. But we know that that's not nearly the number of people that are out there flying. And so we need your help. The number does continue to increase each week, but it'd be great if it increased exponentially. Neither the FAA nor approved test administrators collect any personal information on individuals taking the trust. That's important to know. We're not keeping it. It's just for awareness and safety. We record at the completion certificate token numbered issue, but no other information is collected. Test administrators do not keep record of the certificate either. After completing trust, it's the flyer's responsibility to download or save or print their completion certificate and have it with them when they're flying. Next slide, and back over to you, Pete.
Thank you, Abby. So the Aviation Safety Reporting System, ASRS. NASA administers this program and collects reports from almost every aspect of aviation. The ASRS acts as the information these reports acts on the information that these reports contain. It identifies system deficiencies and issues, alerting messages to people in a position to correct them. It educates through its newsletter, Callback, its journal, ASRS Direct Line, and through its research studies. Its database is a public repository which serves the FAA and NASA's needs and those of other organizations worldwide which are engaged in the research and promotion of safe flight. Now, I know when I'm talking about ASRS, traditional pilots, I'm preaching to the choir. So some of you will already know a lot of this information, so please bear with me. The Aviation Safety Reporting System is voluntary, confidential, and non-punitive. Incident reporting system that receives safety reports from pilots, air traffic controllers, dispatchers, cabin crew, maintenance, and now drone operators. For those of you that aren't familiar, ASRS has been a part of the aviation safety culture for over 45 years, has collected and analyzed over 1.7 million safety reports to date. These reports describe unsafe occurrences, hazardous situations, and lessons learned and best practices to help prevent others from making the same mistakes or to identify a system deficiency. While the system's been around since the 1970s for traditional aviation, it wasn't until April of 2021 that the FAA extended protections offered through the ASRS to all drone operators. The Safety Assurance Working Group is collecting input from the drone community to make recommendations to transition the report form from a modified traditional form to a report that is geared more to the drone operator and more user-friendly and easily used in the environments that drone operators work and fly. For example, a better mobile solution so that when they're out in a field flying a drone and they need to make an ASRS report, they can make that report right there, no pun intended, on the fly.
Pete, we
Pete?
lost your audio.
Pete, we've lost your audio.
Okay,
There you are.
okay. Yeah, more of a mobile solution so that drone operators can, no pun intended, on the fly, make ASRS reports while they're in the field. All reports are held in strict confidence and de-identified by ASRS safety analysts. The resulting anonymous aviation safety data is shared with the aviation and drone communities. It's funded by the FAA, administered by NASA. You can file a report directly through the DST website if you'd like, or at the NASA website, which is on the slide there.
And something I'd like to point out is that anyone can file this report. They don't even have to be involved in the drone operation. The report might include information about what happened, what type of airspace the aircraft was flying in, what the contributing factors were, and where the event happened. The system captures these confidential reports, analyzes the resulting aviation safety data, and distributes information that's important to the aviation community. I mean, I would just say, as having been in the aviation community for now 32 years, which is hard to believe, I did these reports as an air traffic controller, and I'm so happy to know that this is open to the drone ecosystem as well. We're really trying to get the word out as much as possible about this tool because the program's effectiveness in improving safety depends on the free flow of information from users. Based on the information obtained from this program, you and the industry will be able to better develop technologies, and we at the FAA can create better rules to remedy defects or deficiencies in the NAS. Let's go to the next slide. And Pete,
can I just finish off there?
Go for it, man.
Yeah, so with the ASRS, to date, we've only received a little over 200 reports. Now, we hope the reason for this is there haven't been many instances, but we're not naive. Like Abby said, we need to get the word out there, and people need to know to use this. Like I said, I'm preaching to the choir. When ASRS was introduced to the pilot in cockpit community, it took a while to be adopted and the value to be understood. It's counterintuitive to tell on yourself. If no one's around to see you make a mistake, the tendency to call somebody and tell them or make a report that you made a mistake is very difficult to get your mind around and the non-punitive part of that. But the value of the report is to let others know what happened, because although the operator thinks they just made a mistake, it could easily be a human factors issue that is causing the mistake to be made by many operators and requires a change to equipment, procedures, or something like that. So shared information makes the NAS safer. Abby, over to you.
All right. So considering Pete's having some audio problems, I think we'll just call it a wrap. Are there any questions?
Kenji?
That was a very, very fascinating presentation, especially some of the statistics you gave around the reporting as well. I'm hoping that there haven't been as many as we think there are. But the question is, in terms of the validity of the data, have you engaged with the insurance industry at all? Because I was looking at the membership of the DST. I was like, wait a second, it'd be great to have like somebody from Global, like Chris Proudlove getting engaged on that, or other insurance companies as well. Because while they're specifically aviation, there's other like homeowners insurance as well that might capture some of the injuries that might have happened from drones and such. And they'd be a wealth of information. And if it's confidential, I imagine they would be willing to share it. And then you can really take a look at the reports versus what's actually in there in terms of accidents from because injuries are inevitably going to result in some sort of insurance claim.
So
That's
Kenji,
an
that's great.
excellent-
And if you look back on that slide, because it's in the ebook of membership, I don't think we have insurance companies yet, but I think that's a great place to go after. And which takes me to my shameless plug, because I said it at the beginning, I'm going to say it at the end. If you are not a member of the drone safety team yet, it is time. Get on board.
And we
I'm
did
going to come
have,
after you.
we did have some insurance companies when we first
Yeah,
started.
it's Pete's audio is breaking up. In the past, we did have State Farm. And for whatever reason, I think resources, they chose to disengage. But to Abby's point, it really is incumbent upon these organizations to identify themselves and join. But if you have contacts with those organizations, I would strongly recommend, because otherwise Abby will hunt you down.
That's right.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend that you reach out to them, let them know about the drone safety team and have them engage.
Sounds good. And I'll be afraid.
Good.
All right,
In a good
thank
way.
you. Yeah, Kathy?
So I know that there's been a lot of discussion of trust, and trust is a really good thing for getting people engaged. We're finding the message has not gotten out through the aviation community. So when we ask people about, have you done trust, very few people actually know what it is or have done it. So that's something I think we need to work more on, communicating that to the aviation community, the public, the recreational flyers. And I know we've got some experts in those areas on this committee. So they might have some good suggestions on how to reach them. But, we've done kind of a full court press, but when we ask people in outreaches if they know what trust is, we get very little response.
I know Jazz asked in the previous presentation with Diana what industry could do to help. This is an area where industry can help, and with the social media campaign, really advertising the trust test and the why behind it, because I know that this is going to shock people, but not everybody goes directly to the FAA website looking for fun information. And we could catch people in a good way by working together. And certainly the drone safety team offers an arm's length from the regulator. And that's one of the real advantages of working this partnership.
Can I follow up on that?
Sorry about that. Jim Viola, I'd just like to say thanks for that presentation. Certainly the ASRS is always.
Pete,
yes?
Pete, your audio is just really rough. So maybe afterwards Abby can coordinate with you, and if there's anything additional we need to add, she can add that. Kathy, one quick comment, and then we have one more question from David Carbon, and then we'll move on.
Quick comment. People love stickers. And when we did a whole bunch of the 107, we all have the drone stickers on board. I think swag would definitely help in this case.
That's great. That's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, Abby, this is fantastic work to you and the team. Really appreciate it. If you want to partner with some of the industry players like Amazon or Google Wing, I'm sure I can't see you that far away, but we'd be more than happy to
I'm gonna
get
help
on.
find you, David.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can sort of see you, but we'd be absolutely all in. We can get it in with the education department in some of the
That would be
courses,
fantastic.
just so it's one of the things that they tick off. Start young, and in
Yep.
5 years we'll have everyone covered. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and David, just Tony Nanini is from Wing is on the board. So it's time for Amazon to get back. We don't compete on safety, but we do compete on pride.
we're there if they did.
Yeah, all right, great.
Remember that rat?
Great. All right, Abby
Thank
and
you,
Pete,
everybody.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now coming to my favorite part of this meeting, when I as the DFO present new tasking, and then we have an opportunity for the committee to adopt that. If we could go to the slides quickly, please. So it's helpful to read this. Okay, next slide, please. We have completed the beyond visual line of sight ARC, at least their initial recommendations. They presented their report in March of 22. And the ARC was chartered to make recommendations. We know that they were grouped into 7 categories, with each category containing multiple subgroups. So there's a very content-rich environment there. Next slide. And we've often got the question from industry, what can we do to help move these recommendations forward? And when having listened to the ARC, there are a number of things that are beyond the FAA's regulatory authority that's contained within those recommendations. So the tasking I'm proposing is to have the AAAC. I was reminded I have been saying ACCC, which is actually a program I worked on 20 plus years ago. The AAAC to examine the ARC recommendations and identify opportunities where industry can assist and accelerate the implementation of BB loss regulatory action. So in fact, what you might be able to offer, for example, in the economic area, safety data, economic data that would help us with our regulatory impact assessment. I want everyone to know this is not an invitation to revisit the recommendations or revise the recommendations, particularly if there's something that maybe you weren't completely on board with. This is not an invitation to do any of that. The recommendations stand as is. This is really a request from the FAA to the ACCC to give us where you think industry can help move this forward. So that's topic number 1. And of course, we would ask that you provide those recommendations to us by the next meeting, approximately March of 2023. Again, this is one of those taskings that it wouldn't surprise me took several iterations. You have some interim results. So don't feel you need to do all of your work by March. So that's tasking number 14. Advance to the next slide. The second tasking, and now that has gotten a little hard for me to read. The drone industry is expanding within more than just the aviation sector. And it's becoming vital. We think that we need to capture lessons learned and best practices in the area of community engagement and actually engaging with not just the members in the community, but state, local, all of those who represent communities. So tasking number 15, next, please. To have the AAAC make recommendations on lessons learned and best practices for relating to drone community engagement methods. We've seen some really good papers out there by individual companies or entities. We'd like to see the AAAC bring that all back together and provide us with a comprehensive list. Again, this would be for a list at this point in time. And of course, it would be something that I think would grow over the years. Again, looking for recommendations in the March 2023 timeframe. If it does take you longer, please let us know. So over to you, Houston, for any questions or discussion.
Thank you so much, Jay. Any questions from a clarity perspective on any of the tasking from the committee membership? If not, can I get a motion to accept the two taskings from the FAA? Oh, I'm sorry, Brian had a question. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Jay, I'm sorry. I know I'm not going to want to pick on you here because you're just off a plane from Tokyo, but maybe this is the exact right time to do it. But could you just back up? I want to make sure that, you know, there was a huge amount of work that went into the ARC recommendations. And could you just talk a little bit more about how this can accelerate the process that you guys are going through to get us to a result?
Well, I think there's two ways. One, and the ARC did mention this, that there would be there could be additional data that could be collected. So economic data, safety data. I think that's something that we could see, we would benefit from industry giving us more information that would support any of the implementation of the ARC recommendations into a regulation. So that's one area. There are also areas that outside of the FAA's authority, there are recommendations of what would make the ecosystem better. So again, what can industry do that's outside the FAA's authority to help move the BV loss ecosystem forward? Does that help, Brian?
Okay, Kenji.
I'm just making sure that we know what those things are that we need to collect data on. But the tasking is for us to tell you what things that we think we can, or how we're going to do that. How we can get to that.
Could I jump in?
Yeah.
So Brian, this and thanks for the question. And this thought of, you know, when we solicited, you know, thoughts that we wanted to bring forward to Jay and the team, you know, this was something the membership brought forward, and that was, you know, what can we do, you know, to help the FAA think about acceleration opportunities. So the tasking really is for us to go back and look at, you know, those recommendations and bring back the FAA some thoughts in terms of areas that they might be able to accelerate on. And so I think the research itself, you know, should, you know, hopefully collaboratively try to identify what that looks like. That's exactly what, you know, Jay and the team is asking us to do. Is not to go back and find new recommendations, but to look at the existing regulations or recommendations and identify opportunities for accelerated activity, if that makes sense. And so that's the work. That's the work in hand. Did I miss anything, Jay?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
All
Yes,
right.
Kenji.
A question related to this one?
Yeah, quick question. So Jay's spoken in the past in terms of the BV laws, ARC recommendations, that there'd be multiple sort of rule sets involved. It's not going to be just one whole big giant rulemaking that's going to happen, but there's multiple parallel where it's going to be broken up into chunks. So you've also mentioned that there's some easy ones that are being worked on right now, and then there's some longer term sort of rulemaking that'll happen that requires more data. So are you saying for the pieces that are going to take a little bit longer, the data set provided or the information provided by the AAAC will help accelerate those rulemakings? Is that correct?
So sort of take out of your mind any phasing, or don't try and anticipate that.
Okay.
Just simply look at the areas that you think you could accelerate by providing something additional.
Okay, got it. All right. That's all.
We still have the process of figuring out chunks and timing and all of that.
Okay.
So don't try and figure that out or reverse engineer it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would add that, you know, like every tasking that we have, Once the tasking goes out, we'll have a lead. We'll have the opportunity to come back and get clarity, do the research to make sure we don't solve for all those questions here, but certainly those are really good questions that the task group will need to come back and dive to make sure we bring, something of value, back to the FAA and the team. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with to get a motion to accept these two taskings. Can I get a motion? Second, please. Okay, so move. So with that, I did want to announce that, thank you for task group 14, the Beyond Visual Line of Sight tasking. David Carbone has agreed to lead that task group. And so I'll have a communication going out with all the information. David will organize, similar to the past, and that team will dive into this. So looking forward to that, David. Thank you. And then for task group 15, thank you, Kenjai, and also Michael Leo are going to co-lead the tasking for the community engagement piece. So we got some great leadership. It's great, and to have different partners stepping up to lead us and bring us back some great recommendations. So I really appreciate both of you, all three of you gentlemen, stepping into the brink. So with that, Jay, I think I'll turn it back over to you.
No, actually,
I
you get
take
to
that back.
do new business.
That's right. I'll keep it going. We've got some time, for any new business items. And for new members, I would say this is an opportunity for us, thought leadership, right? We got a little bit of time here. Anything so we need to think about, it's opportunity to plant some seeds for things that perhaps we discussed or we didn't discuss that you'd like to bring forward. Here's the opportunity to do that. The other thing I would add for new members, because literally you just got appointed less than 2 weeks ago, right? And so you're thrown right into the mix. And as we talked about some of the protocols and everything like that, one of the things I'm going to recommend for you in particular, and Jay just work with the team, is give me the opportunity to go back and look at past minutes, look at past taskings, so I can just kind of get up to speed, right? You're thrown right into this boulder that's been going downhill for 6 years, and you're like, okay, it's going fast. What's been done, et cetera. You haven't really had the opportunity to dive into any of that. So, I think it'll be beneficial, and we'll try to consolidate that information and give you the opportunity to digest it. And then the other thing I would say is I would very much encourage you, and the email communications come out for new taskings, to connect yourself or someone from your team to these taskings, because it's a great way to get engaged, to see the process and be part of it. And I certainly would encourage you to do that as well. So with that, any new business items that anyone would like to bring up? Yes, Nick.
One of the problems we have, and this may or may not be AAAC, but it definitely would be under the community involvement aspect of our charter, is that TFRs were first put in place for manned aircraft. So you've got the 3 mile, you've got the 30 mile, things like that. As drones came more about, they were then lumped in with those same TFRs. And what would be the possibility of this group and or the FAA working with DHS, FBI, DOJ, to carve out less of a TFR ring for drones? 3 miles for a Major League Baseball it shuts down basically 1,800 nights that we can work, and there's no other industry really that is affected that way by government regulation, temporary government regulation. The 30-mile VIP TFR obviously necessary for the manned aircraft, but it's ludicrous for unmanned. And we have companies that live in Delaware, work in Delaware. They're shut down many weekends, and that's kind of unfortunate that we're lumped in that same bucket as manned aircraft.
I'm not going to comment on the validity of temporary flight restrictions. I will say that we currently have a rulemaking underway for critical infrastructure, which was required through FAA reauthorization. I think it's prudent to see what that rulemaking suggests, and through the period of public comment, use that to see what 2209, which is the section of reauthorization. That's our shorthand for not telling you the whole thing. But it's really, I think it would be prudent to see what comes out in that notice of proposed rulemaking, public comment, and then after that, we could possibly consider a tasking scene on what might be remaining on this question for you. But I don't I don't anticipate at this time we would take that on.
Do we have a timeline for that NPRM?
It's published in the fall agenda. It should come out in, I think, less than 30 days or so. Pardon? Yeah, the fall unified agenda.
Right, yes. Yeah, I'd like to put forward a new tasking of the subject that I brought up earlier about taking traditional or providing a pathway for traditional aerospace personnel and bringing them from traditional aerospace into the UAS AAM ecosystem and making recommendations for providing that type of program.
Okay, well, certainly I think, and just from the past, especially for new members, thanks for bringing that up. If you do have some thoughts that you'd like us to collect in terms of giving form to the FAA for potential future taskings, if you could write that up, kind of give a little bit of the why and what the outcome is, and I'll certainly get that to Jay and his team to evaluate.
Sure.
Because, ultimately they're going to task us with, what we believe is going to help advance. And that if that's a really good idea and an opportunity to advance things, I know Jay and the team will consider it. So thanks for bringing that up.
You bet. Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
In that vein, and apologies in advance for being brand new to this. So I don't have not gone through the back minutes, nor do I know the process, but in listening to the recommendations that came out of TG 13, and in particular on the community engagement piece, I just want to ask the question, and also recognizing that advanced air mobility has more recently been integrated into this group. Is there the need for another tasking more specifically around community engagement and community integration beyond just any fine tuning that comes out of task group 13?
That's actually the point of tasking 15. Is the community engagement.
But with that, I heard specifically around small drones, and maybe I misheard.
No, we weren't restricting it to small drones.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I thought that was coming out of the small drone.
No.
Okay,
That's
right.
That's across the entire community, across the entire small drones to AAM, because we don't want to presuppose necessarily that the techniques would be different.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's what I'm here for.
I do think just from the experience that we've had at CAMI that there are significant differences in engagement and integration with SUAS versus
Right,
a larger
that's why I
aircraft.
chose my-
Yes, I'm glad to hear that task group is encompassing all of that. And I'd be
that-
happy to participate.
Sure, that's why I chose my words to say we wouldn't want to presume.
And so, Kenji, I can tell you got a really good committee member that's going to be able to jump in very quickly and bring some great value. So timing can be better.
Yeah, Kenji, did you have something else? I saw you.
No, I was gonna say, do I have volunteers? So
Okay.
that was answered. Thank you.
I would say if she doesn't, we need to bring that up.
Yeah, I'll get Abby on it.
Onto it.
Yeah, we'll get Abby.
We have a comment from Jazz.
Yes, go ahead, Jess.
Hey, folks, hearing the difficulties of getting people to come online for testing, certification, all these different things you're trying to do. One of the things I'd ask the community to think about here is what incentives can we provide? What things can the FAA provide or the industry provide, whether it be, I don't know, access to celebrity pilots or things like that, some kind of things we could do to incentivize people to come in and do the testing and the certification and everything else, not just a plaque, but some kind of exclusive content or something to lure people into them. That's just my thoughts.
Excellent. Thanks, Jess. Governor Duff-Chu.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair Mel. Last meeting, I mentioned there's a task the Air Force asked us to develop and test fly the 100% synthetic jet fuel. And I'm very proud to report to the committee. The test flight actually happened about 2 months ago. And we're using the 100% synthetic jet fuel and fly on our own jet UAV. And it went very successful. So, and the Air Force is fixing to release the news probably within the next week or two. And that could be the first time in the world we're using 100% synthetic jet fuel. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. All right, any additional new business?
This is Jim Vial with HAI. Thank you very much for having me today and being part of the new group. Hopefully you can hear better. I turned my video off, but I'm also interested in being able to go back and see some of the old notes so we can get caught up and do some homework. So thank you.
Yeah, this is Jay Merkel. We in the UAS office will take an action to pull that together and provide it to Houston so he can distribute it to the whole committee.
All right. Last call for any other new items? Wonderful.
I'm sorry, can I have one follow-up comment?
Absolutely.
It's the lawyer in me, I'm sorry. Can we retitle task 15 to not be called drone community engagement lessons? Because that's where I got confused. When I saw the word drone, to me, I went SUAS. Now, maybe this group has previously agreed that drone will encompasses aircraft of any size, but that's where I was looking for the clarification. If we're truly including larger aircraft, advanced air mobility, can we clarify that? Thanks.
We'll take that under consideration. But I think the beyond the reading of the word, the intent is to have AAM and small UAS in there. So if you need any clarity on the intent, you can always come back to the FAA and ask for further clarification. It wouldn't surprise me if, as the group drills into it, you're going to have a challenge in setting the boundary, because it's not a bright line between AAM and a number of other initiatives and technology. So I would leave that with the group as to where to draw that line.
Wonderful. All right. Well, with that, Jay, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And I think, certainly I would just say, for your final thoughts. So.
Thank you, Houston. And I can't tell you how happy I am to have you official. That was, yeah, Houston, you've been a great acting chair, and I look forward to you leading this group longer. Welcome to all the new members again. Also, thank you so much to those who for many years have been supporting this committee and are now moving on to do other good things. I appreciate all the presenters today. We had some very good content and some good discussion. And once again, I want to thank my team, particularly Kamisha and Gary and company. Kamisha. And the good news and the bad news for us is Kamisha's moving on to bigger and better things. So this will be her last time with us. But we're glad to see Kamisha growing. And I also want to recognize the team from the Office of Communications who does such a great job in making sure we can do this webcast. And it's a lot of work. If you haven't been in the room to see all that they do for us, it's really nice. So with that, I also want to thank Deputy Administrator Mims and Vin from the Office of the Secretary for their presentations. And with that, in the interest of time, Houston, I'm going to turn it back to you, sir.
All right. Well, Jay, I don't really have anything to add along the line. Thank you. And again, just a warm welcome to all of our new members. Thank you to all of our existing members Task Group 13, you did a phenomenal job. What a great discussion, a great thought leadership. Really appreciate RTCA coming, along with all the other presentations from the FAA, just to inform. And if you have some thoughts in terms of complementary, information that'll complement our meetings, by all means, please forward that to me so we can kind of get those in there. We certainly want it to be meaningful and relevant to help us, move forward with the ongoing taskings and dialogue. So, thanks also to our new task group leads. We'll look forward to the work that you guys bring forward. Echoing Jay, appreciation to you and your team, all the team for all the work you've done. It is an amazing amount of work. You have no idea. The scripting, the information, the preparation, it's meticulous. And you guys do a phenomenal job. Kanisha, congratulations. Whatever's next for you, it's going to be big. We know you'll be successful. And again, just want to say thank you to everyone for all your contributions to moving this industry forward. We are going to make it happen, and we're making progress. There's three things that I wrote down, 3 words. I've got this. I want to make sure I mention progress, collaboration, thought leadership. And I'll leave you with that. Have a great day.